Sunday paper.
Read all about it.
Read all about. Sorry, go ahead.
That's my excitement. It's the Sunday papers, everybody.
You look exhausted. I was trying to help you. I was trying to get under there and lift up that read all. No, I'm trying to fool myself with your.
Can you imagine what it was like being a paper boy in the 1920s when there were fucking 20 other paper boys on your block and you're trying to hear ye them?
But also imagine the fatigue of all the bad news, like during World War II. Like, Poland fell. I kind of called this yesterday. Poland fell.
Yeah, right.
Like, the next week, it's like, France didn't even put up a fight.
Yeah.
They didn't even put up a fight.
Yep. They're hitting all the subway stops in London. They're dead.
The evil Axis, they're running up the score. They really are. America, what? Imagine then that they're the voice of like the moral voice, like America's still not involved somehow. Still not involved. Ford says let him die.
Not our war, people. Brooklyn Dodgers still on fire. So are the people in the subways in London.
Isolationists still getting their way. Isolationists still getting their way.
Get your paper now. Go home and isolate. Isolate with that paper.
Oh my God, that's what it's like now. Still no vaccine. President's not wearing a mask. No one's doing.
By the way, don't forget, if you haven't got your Grapefruit Simmons T-shirt, we just got a new shipment.
Is this
all sizes?
Hold on. Look what I have. First time ever. I'm not wearing it yet.
What do you
Look
got?
At that.
Hey now.
Come
See
on.
that? Through the I just passed that to him through the magic of Zoom.
I know we're not side by side, but I could pretend I just got it. Hand it to your right, just for me, because we're next to each other. Why don't you throw it to your right?
Okay, to my right. Okay, ready?
Yeah, go.
1, 2, 3.
Oh my God. Is this, to everyone listening, we should just let's do it again. And just nothing but visual jokes for an hour as they're jogging.
And
listening
now
to this.
the magic dime trick.
I have to say, that was a pretty seamless, you throw it at my face and it hits my face.
If you're not watching this on Zoom, jump in. It's fun. You got to see us. I shaved for the show today.
I don't like that we record. Someone wrote in and said, oh, weird. Gibbons looks not at all like I expected him to. Maybe he envisioned me not in a closet. But I think I agree with that. Whenever you hear a voice, it must be like those long distance relationships. It's almost like getting catfished. Nope. Yeah. This is the guy that belongs to the voice. Sorry.
Well, I didn't fall in love, but I fell deeply in like with a girl. I met her briefly in New York, and then she went off to another city to write a novel, and she was there for 3 months, and we talked on the phone every day for hours and got super close. She was so smart, loved the same music. We're both like voracious readers, favorite authors, everything. And then I was working in St. Louis, as a matter of fact, and she flew in, and we met up, stayed at the hotel together. And what I didn't notice the first time was she had a beard.
Really?
Yes.
That's worse. I was trying. My brain was like, and then she showed up with an insert the worst band ever T-shirt. Like Slipknot.
Foreigner.
Yeah, or
Double
whatever
vision. Yeah.
A beard.
No, but a very pretty girl otherwise. And we had a great weekend. And then she went back to write the book, and I went back to New York, and I met Erin. And by the time she moved back to New York, me and Erin were a thing, and I had to break it off with her.
Listen, I found someone with less facial hair than I. Maybe you were intimidated because you don't rock good. Do you rock good facial hair?
No, it's orange and it's clumpy. It's terrible. Hers was fucking beautiful, smooth,
silky, long.
Yeah.
She put one of those.
She was ahead of the whole hipster thing.
She put one of those little hair bands in it, like to pinch the beard under her chin. I like it.
I said, do I need to huff and puff and blow your beard off?
Oh, jeez. All right.
All right. Let's get into some goddamn news. By the way, Owen Beckman did our song this week, our first rap.
Very cool.
Very cool. I thought that was badass. I don't think we played the whole thing, but what we'll do is we'll play the entire song at the end of the show, and you should listen to appreciate how great these lyrics are.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I have to confess again, I haven't heard the song yet because we don't play it back, but I promise you I'll hear it before we do the Thursday papers.
Yeah, that's right. And then our logo this week from David Chamberlain. We're running out of logos, people. So send in some more logo ideas.
Huh.
Corrections. We always start off with some corrections.
Nice. Oh, yeah. I don't have my paper.
All
Is
right.
that a prerequisite for a Sunday paper song, I guess?
Christopher La Pensée, which is French for the thought.
Ooh.
Light miles, as Gibbons said, ain't a thing.
Oh, right.
Well,
I knew that
maybe
one.
it is if you're Bill Nye the drunk science guy.
This is what I want to say. He's right. That part hurt. But I bet it is a concept. I bet somehow. Because, listen, when I read string theory, I don't understand a goddamn thing. And when they're talking about fifth dimensions, I can't even get past a fourth dimension. So I bet there's a thing. Everything's relative, ass munch. No, everything's relative. So if everything's relative, how could there not be a light mile?
A light mile would take such a small amount of time, it would almost be impossible to measure. Well, nothing's impossible to measure. These scientists, they're smart.
Yeah.
But it would be such a fucking infinitesimal? What is it?
Smaller than an iota? An infinitesimally small?
It would be infinitesimally small.
We're just generating
digit.
more letters. We're getting everything wrong as we talk. But he's right. I did mean a light year away, which is a staggeringly long amount of miles. But I like my light mile. Hey, how many, you listen, in the future, you're going to go over a friend's house. You're like, hey, how many light miles do you live? And that's shortcut.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm going to be coming to your house at the speed of light. And still doesn't make sense. I don't know. Anyway.
Now, if you're like, hey, how far is it to quintennial 5? Well, as the light flies, it's about
yeah, and no refraction. Just as it flies with no refraction and no curvature of time or space.
Yeah.
Then tell me. Oh, it's really close. It's really close.
Without going through frozen planetary waves, would it be? All right, this comes from Kim Fairchild. With regard to the Sunday Papers discussion, the actor in Keep America Beautiful, the ad where the Native American has a tear going down his face, he was not Native American, but was in fact Iron Eyes Cody, a.k.a. Espera Oscar de Corti, an American of Italian descent who had a career playing Native American Indians in Hollywood.
He doubled down with that name, it sounds like.
Yeah.
It should be Iron Eyes Carpaccio or some shit.
Yeah, Iron Eyes Cody. He was Iron Eyes Gabagoo. So
Iron Eyes
apparently it wasn't just this one ad. I guess that was his thing. He was the Native American guy.
Oh, good. So he put more Native Americans out of work. It wasn't just that ad?
Right. And,
wow.
Is that cultural appropriation? I mean, do we all have to be the race that we're playing in a role? What do you think, Mike Gibbons?
I think even the horse was there rolling his eyes like, this fucking Italian Goomba? Like, seriously?
It wasn't even a horse.
I'm not your horse.
It was a mule. It was a fucking mule.
No, are you serious?
Trying to play a horse.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
That one, I went for it. I think everything should be off on that. Fake leather. It was pleather. It wasn't even real litter.
In Blazing Saddles, wasn't Mel Brooks dressed as an Indian at one point?
I think he was. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
he was. And he's a Jew. But Jews can do anything because of the Holocaust. They kind of get a pass.
You make it sound like that was their hard work they put in. They've earned it. Yeah. Okay. Does that set up? We got another letter about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think we read it last week.
What?
About the guy being
No, I'm talking about the Holocaust.
Oh, yeah. I think we're doing that on Thursday.
Okay.
That's in the Thursday paper, Mike.
Sorry.
Don't confuse our two. By the way, if you don't know it, the Thursday paper we've done 2 so far. It's just a 20-minute hit, gets you through the week, comes out on Thursdays.
Yeah, do something. Clean your dishes. Right. That office you need tidying, 20 minutes while we talk. Don't even pay attention to us. We're going to be talking about the Holocaust. It'll keep things real light.
Make love to your wife. And that's what the Thursday paper is for. Sunday paper, that's for your gourmand. That's for your girlfriend on the side.
Yeah. When you're getting really romantic, you throw a move, as you like to say, on the wife, which sounds aggressive, by the way. But when you're getting romantic and hot and heavy with the wife, what you want is 2 ill-informed people talking about Germans charging Jews for the train ride to the concentration camps. That's what's going to keep you at attention, let's just say.
All right. Candle, dim the lights, ignorance.
New sheets, Holocaust. It all adds up to a romantic...
I find if you put the fan on, real light, just over the bed, it's really pretty. And then if you light one of those incense, and then also a guy jerking off to Blondie, really sets the mood.
And the guy talking about his perhaps cancerous bump on his shin. See how I did that transition? Isn't that the next letter? I don't know what order we're going in.
Is this the least sexy podcast on the air, Mike Gibbons?
No. You want to know what's sexy is human beings being human beings and being solid people. I got a follow-up fan letter. If you remember, I talked about this mysterious bump, which is really prominent, I have to say, on my shin. I didn't know if it was bone or not. And then I got a very concerned letter. The guy told me it's a tear in the fascia of the muscle, allowing the muscle to poke through, causing a lump, essentially it's a leg hernia. And this guy had 3 repaired. And who wrote that? Big Simp. Big Simp was his handle. Anyway, I didn't follow up because I did go to the doctor. I got an ultrasound and I got an x-ray. Out of nowhere, I've not talked about that. Big Simp followed up this week.
Wow, that's sweet.
He just checked in and just said, how's the leg? I'm wondering if Big Simp's in network. I assume he's a doctor. But that's better care than I'm getting from my doctors. Here's what happened to me. I went down, I got an ultrasound and an x-ray, right? So here was Do you still have the bump? Yes. So here's the ultrasound. 2.2 times 0.3 times 1.8 centimeters. Hypoechoic area corresponding to the patient's palpable abnormality in the right shin. In there is history of trauma. This may represent edema or resolving hematoma. Alternatively, this may represent an area of scar tissue. Recommend clinical correlation. Fine, that's ultrasound. This is what my doctor sent me. That, and then she sent me the same thing from the technician, I guess, who did the x-ray. On the frontal view, there is an arrow pointing to the lateral and mid aspect of the leg. On the lateral view and along the pretibial soft tissues, there is a focal area of soft tissue swelling. There is no underlying bonal abnormality. There is no circumscribed soft tissue mass visualized. There is no abnormal soft tissue mineralization. The underlying tibia and fibula are intact, yes. If the mass is soft, an ultrasound may be considered. So they're both referring to each other. Anyway, it goes on a little bit. The doctor simply wrote me in an email that I had to go in the network to get, Michael, please review imaging reports, which I just did. No concern. Period. That's it. That's it. Fucking Big Simp's more concerned. Big Simp and I want to know what this is. She doesn't say what. Okay, so I'm left with this bump on my. Does it Does it go away? Should I put a warm compress? I understand it's not cancer, so good news. I understand there's no concern, but even if it's just for what do I tell people at places who are like, what's up with your leg, dude?
Yeah, right. And I love no concern because it doesn't mean that the situation isn't serious. It means he's not concerned. He could be typing this from the fifth tee where he's not concerned about much except for this fucking slice he can't get rid of today.
Well, I caught you in an embarrassing situation, Greg. The doctor is Sue Hutchinson.
Oh, shit. And you're saying women don't play golf?
Well, I'm saying they're not very detail-oriented because this bitch didn't write anything here informing her patient of what he has.
That's funny because you know what? I prefer a female doctor because I do feel like they're more detail-oriented. I think they're more caring. I think they're better communicators.
Okay.
And I think they follow up better.
Well, I'm going to tear that apart. You want to hear one now? So my voice, I'll make this as short as possible. I go see an ear, nose, throat. She looks at it. She's every time I go there, she's concerned. I would go home and like the wife would be like, what did they say? She's like, well, they said it was kind of bad, but that, you know, and I really was unable to answer. And I would give some details like, I got to do this. Anyway, on and on. So every time I go there, she would look down my throat and be like, oh, because she's seeing acid burns on my throat. Got to elevate the bed, on and on and on. So finally one time, because I would hear like, you know, there's Adam Yauch from the Beastie Boys, but I would hear this going unchecked does potentially lead to cancer. So anyway, I want to know kind of what's in her mind. So I finally go there one time and I swear to God, everything I'm about to tell you is the truth. So she does it. We're almost done with the checkup. And then I'm like, oh no, you know what? I got to walk away here with some details that I understand. So I literally say, you kind of look concerned. You just look down my throat and you kind of look concerned. Can you give me an idea of like what it is, or is there a scale? Like, how does it look? She's like, well, on a scale. I'm like, is there a scale? Like, give me an idea how bad you think it is. And she goes, I'd say it's a 4 or a 4+. So I, in my mind, go, this is my last doctor's visit because I will take a 4 any goddamn day. I don't care that I sound raspy. It's podcast gold. What? So I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm like a fucking 4+. That talk to me when I'm a 9, right? I'm about to leave and I go, not this communicative woman that you claim is a doctor. I go, I just want to know, what is the scale? What is the scale? Is it 1 to 10? Swear to God, she goes, it's 1 to 4. I go, what? And
she's letting you walk out of the office?
And I'm like, wait a minute. Were you not going to tell me that? Did you see how I had a smile after you? That wasn't a sarcastic smile or like a gallows humor. I'm a goner. I'm like, you just told me one of the words you used was 4+, which means you don't have a medical scale that holds me. You don't have a medical range of numbers that I even fit in. I'm off the charts.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you are coming here. You're having a medical doctor put a little camera down your throat. I'm like, yes, but tell me when I'm off the goddamn charts.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I had a coffee on the way over here. You told me I'm not allowed to have coffee. By the way, I had 3 today.
That's like being told that you have AIDS and you have a low T cell count. You'd be like, oh, at least my T cells aren't high.
Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, right. And you're like, well, you told me the number of T cells. Like, how bad is it? Oh, well, now that you ask, I definitely wouldn't drive home. I doubt you'll make it home. I think you're going to die before you get home. Well, you could have told me that.
Boy, that's scary because you make your living with your voice.
By make a living, do you mean all the money I'm losing on this podcast? Do you know how much money I lose because of my voice? If I didn't have these golden pipes,
your voice.
If I didn't have these golden pipes, I wouldn't have a podcast, which means I'd have more money.
You're going to be rich when you lose your voice.
I can't wait. Oh, my God.
Oh, God. All right. Listen, let's get to the news.
Women doctors.
As we're 20 minutes in, we haven't done a news story yet.
Do it.
Front page.
Extra! Extra! Read all about it! Extra!
Let's start with this motorcycle rally. You want to tell us about it, Mike?
It's my favorite goddamn thing. Okay, so the biggest motorcycle rally, I believe it's in the world, and it's Harley Heaven, you know what I mean, is in Sturgis. It's like synonymous with it.
South Dakota.
South Dakota. So the people there, I'm just off the top of my head, I know it's been brewing for months, and the citizens of Sturgis have begged the city council and mayor and governor, like, not this year. Everything else is being canceled. But come Friday, yesterday, and 2 days ago, I guess, when this airs, but it was yesterday it started. It's 10 days, I think. 250,000 people from across the country have descended on a town with 7,000 people in South Dakota.
It's literally the definition of what not to do during COVID.
Worried residents say officials should have canceled the Sturgis motorcycle rally in a state where the Republican governor, Kristi Noem, resisted stay-at-home orders and mask rules. And last month, she welcomed another mass event, Donald Trump's 4th of July weekend speech at the foot of Mount Rushmore. A city survey found that more than 60% of Sturgis residents wanted the event postponed. The mayor of Sturgis says there's not much they can do but encourage personal responsibility and set up sanitation stations and give out masks, though face coverings won't legally be required. Good luck. You're handing out masks and hoping the people that wear these masks, they're not even wearing motorcycle helmets. If you give them half a chance in a state that doesn't have helmet laws, none of them wear them. Just look at the pictures.
Right. Yeah, these are guys, the mask is not stopping the virus. Put it this way, jeans don't stop a guy from getting a pool cue up his ass during this week. How's a mask going to stop a coronavirus?
One quote in the article, "My grandma is absolutely terrified because she has diabetes and she's in her 80s and has lupus. Meanwhile, normally this time every year, she's just terrified of motorcycle gang rape."
You don't know that.
Now
she
you're
might
adding.
fucking love the bikers.
Now you're adding a virus.
She could be the chick that is a normal, like, laid-back grandma, knits, bakes cookies, and then this week, every year, she puts a fucking bandana on, cuts the legs off her jeans, and goes into fucking holy hell. Mouth open.
You're asking this group to self-monitor and to take care of themselves. No helmets. They don't even take care of their own syphilis. It's just they are rough riders. And you're asking them also to self-regulate and monitor. Remember when the Stones hired Hell's Angels in Altamont? That didn't turn out too well.
That's right.
And that was their official job.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I think keeping 6 feet apart is tough during a gangbang. And we'll wait and see. We'll report on it next week. We'll let you know what happens.
And when you're riding side saddle with your man on his hog, you're definitely within. And when you fall, there's no help. And when you crash into other motorcycles, you're definitely within 6 feet. So let's keep an eye on Sturgis. It's going to be the next, like, at least 10 days.
Oh, it's going to be a huge spike. It's going to be, not only that, all these bikers then go back to their communities where they exercise no social distancing.
The good news is their immune systems aren't compromised at all with, like, drugs or alcohol during this event. So I don't think anyone is going to get it.
Hey, it may turn out nobody gets it, and the secret vaccine is meth.
Trump's going to start using meth. He's going to scream at Fauci about why Fauci's keeping meth on the down low in this conspiracy against first line treatments. Meanwhile, I know a good defense, though, is a lot less likely catching it on a motorcycle pulling into town than in a car carpooling. That is true.
Yep.
All right. Good luck, Sturgis.
Next story. Twins, the TikTok twins. These guys are named.
I don't know them.
The something brothers. What did I cut the fucking name out of the story? Yeah, so they faked a couple bank robberies in Irvine, California on October 15th. They have 25 million followers on TikTok. Oh, the Stokes twins. And 4 million subscribers on YouTube. And so they They wore all black. They wore ski masks, and they had duffel bags that were filled. And they came running out of a bank where they had an Uber driver waiting. Guy wouldn't let them in the car because he's a fucking pussy. He could have wet his beak. How much money are you making as a fucking Uber driver that you don't pick
it's just
these
a
guys
racist
up?
Uber driver who thought they were Black Lives Matter people?
You're right. So so somebody calls the cops. The cops come, arrest the guy. They got the Uber driver. They got guns pulled on the Uber driver. And so they end up writing a citation to the Stokes twins. And everybody leaves. An hour later, they do the same thing at another bank across town. And now the cops show up, and now they're throwing the book at them. They're charging them with a bunch of felonies.
Okay, I have so many questions. First of all, they made up that name because that's going to be their new reality show. Like, you've been stoked. It's like Punk.
Stoked.
But wait a minute. You said faking a bank robbery.
Yes.
So they were fake guns?
I don't know that it said they had guns. They were dressed in black, ski masks, duffel bags, and I guess they were running and looking around, acting like they'd robbed the bank.
Because, fake robbing a bank is one of the cool moves to do when you're actually robbing a bank. Do you know that?
Mm-mm.
Like, what you do, listen up, listeners. If you didn't get any of your PPP loans or any of your forgiveness, or Trump can't get through this new relief package, I'm going to teach you how to rob a bank. You go, they may be onto this, but I doubt it because you heard it here on a podcast. You go into a bank, you take all the deposit slips or whatever you want to do. You turn them over, you write on the back of like 10 of them, put all the money in the bag and don't say anything. And then you put them all back and then you take one. And now you write legit.
Wait, I'm confused. Where are the deposit slips to begin with?
They're in like those center desks in the bank.
Oh, right. Okay.
Where you grab your deposit or withdrawal slip. So you write it on like 10 of them, right? Then you take one, and you should also write it with your bad hand, like so it doesn't look like your handwriting. Anyway, there's a couple of details you should be wary of. But you then take your deposit slip or whatever the fuck, you fill it out legitimately on one side, then you go up there and you hand it to the bank teller, and you flip it on the side that has the ransom thing written, and you let them deal with it. Now, they will start putting money in the bag and all that stuff. If you're caught, you'll be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then they see that you unwittingly grabbed one that some prankster wrote all these things on.
Oh.
And that's your out. And they can't prove it, except for all the cameras and your handwriting and the fact that you walked out with a giant sack of money when you really wanted to withdraw $60.
Yeah, when you once you're halfway home and they pull you over and you go, I don't know, sometimes they give out calendars. I just figured they were stepping it up during the coronavirus.
The $65 did feel a little heavy in the duffel bag. I will say that, but I thought they were like, maybe they gave me paperweights or whatever gift the bank is running, this month.
By the way, who's responsible for all these ink things exploding in my car?
What kind of bank gift is that? That's a weird one. Does it smell like Wells Fargo when it splatters on the wall? I don't get it. It's in my eyes and it stings like fuck.
All right, let's talk about the post office.
Oh, so depressing.
As we know, with the next election, it's makes a lot of sense for there to be absentee ballots, mail-in voting, and so the U.S. Postal Service Postmaster General Louie DeJoy, a Trump loyalist, has recently created new rules for the agency that have dramatically slowed the delivery of mail just as mail-in voting for 2020 has begun. He overhauled the U.S. Postal Service, released a new organizational chart that displaces postal executives with decades of experience and concentrates power in DeJoy himself. 23 executives have been reassigned or fired. The 7 regions of the nation will become 4, and the USPS will have a hiring freeze.
In August, before an election year.
There is reason to be suspicious of DeJoy's motives. Not only have his new regulations slowed mail delivery, but also under him, the USPS has told states that ballots will have to carry first-class 55-cent postage rather than the normal 20-cent bulk rate, almost tripling the cost of mailing ballots. This seems to speak to Trump's wish to make mail-in ballots problematic. And DeJoy and his wife, whom Trump has nominated to become ambassador to Canada, own between 30 million and 75 million in assets in competitors to the USPS.
Yep. And I bet, by the way, there'll be very little information about that stamp requirement because I believe their hope is people will be putting regular stamps or the bulk, whatever, on.
Ah, right.
And it will not be counted.
Right. Because people don't have 55-cent stamps.
That's for the bulk mail, so I don't really know how that works. Is it normal for us? Who knows? But it's so crazy. And the whole Electoral College is more than, it's antiquated, and it's all this system of not wanting every vote counted. That's really what it is.
It seems like there's a lot of ways that votes are not going to be counted. Like you look at what happened during the Georgia election this past a couple months ago. And they had people were receiving, like people that were candidates were talking about how they never received, they got their mail-in ballot mailed to them after the election happened. There were 4-hour lines at polling stations. There were voting booths that hadn't been delivered. There were, it just went on. And it's, there seems to be, I don't know what the upside is. Is there, do they think with mail-in voting that affects one party over the other?
There's a lot of articles written on how it does affect people, but the Trump.
No, but why does that hurt Democrats if there's no mail-in voting?
Well, I think because the more votes that are counted from polling would indicate that more of the left is voting. That's one. Right. And then I just have to admit, I don't know the other reasons. I really don't know how it disproportionately affects, like how is the old guard, like the right, how are they voting? I'm not exactly sure. But also this whole BS story of Trump, Pence, all the top administration officials vote by mail.
Right.
And now they're espousing this don't vote by mail. And I don't know what the benefits are. I don't know how
I don't know what the benefit is of going to a balloting place where the computers, the voting machines, some have a paper trail, some don't, some are on the internet, some aren't. It's a hodgepodge of different machines that very likely will be hacked at some point during an election versus a pile of paper clearly marked and traceable and recountable. I don't understand why the whole fucking election just isn't mail in anyway and make it free. No stamp.
Right. Some states are, by the way, and always have been, and a lot of states. And voting by mail has been around for hundreds of years, literally. So there's that. And also they're saying it's very hard. They've broken down the amount of fraud with the mail, and it's not high at all. Meanwhile, we know for a fact that the voting booths have been compromised.
Yes.
There's fraud on that end.
Yes.
So that argument really doesn't hold water.
Right.
Plus, you see such interesting people at the post office if you do go in there.
Yeah, I'm worried. There's a lot of factors that should make you worry right now about the actual, the physical voting that's going to take place this year.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
So let's get to international.
Ooh.
Well, there's a beer brand in Canada, and they've apologized. They came under fire for unwittingly taking their name from the Maori word for pubic hair. Their beer is called Huru Huru Huru, which they thought meant fur, but in fact, it's the word for pubic hair.
The same, sorry to be so ignorant here, the same name sound repeated 3 times means pubic hair?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a culture where they're like, hey, your bathing suit's a little low. I can see your pubic hair, pubic hair, pubic hair. Maybe that's how they always talk.
Maybe there's such a repressed culture that when it comes to anything sexual, they just start stuttering. I can see your pussy.
I don't get
I
it.
think I think Clarence Thomas will like this brand.
Old joke. I wonder how many of our listeners know that one, because there was a pubic hair on a Coke can.
Yes. Nita Hill. Go back and read it. Google it, young listeners.
All right.
It's 75 years, Mike. It seems like just yesterday that we nuked Hiroshima. Is it Hiroshima or Hiroshima?
I say Hiroshima because I also say harassment. I don't know. I like the pronunciation. It's probably Hiroshima.
Yeah. So anyway, they got bombed, again, for our younger listeners, on August 6th, 1945. The United States dropped an atomic bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
We were hoping as a country we would never have to pronounce Hiroshima again because we bombed the fuck out.
Yeah,
So that pronunciation problem went away, and then they came back very disciplined and annoying.
We had already deleted their Wikipedia page. I mean, we thought it was just over.
Kind of like Sturgis. We're not talking about Sturgis next year.
They're the new
total wipeout.
They're the new Hiroshima. The new Hiroshima.
Yeah.
I mean, and it really makes you think. 75 years. What do you get a city for their 75th? Gold, turquoise, an apology.
Well, I'll tell you what they don't like: surprises. So don't make it a surprise party. Oh, Jesus. God, what's happened to us? We go from the holiday. If you're throwing a move on the wife during this one, all right, good luck. We just have walking people. All of a sudden you see just their bones because they've been literally, I say the word literally too much. They've been eviscerated. They've been, what is it called when you're just incinerated on the spot? Vaporized.
Yeah. Wow. I think we need some entertainment to clear our palate, don't you?
Okay, well, hold on. I have a perfect link to entertainment. But let's finish it in this section. I saw a really interesting article this week about Godzilla. I know it sounds racist, but it's related. And and it's just true, but I never read it before, that when the West got Godzilla and when it made its way over here, they took off and edited out all the references to, that was an analogy I'm so brain dead right now. That was an allegory for after the bombings in World War II. So I think the first Godzilla was early 50s, and he had the skin, and there's a name for it in Japan, that was the skin of survivors of the bombing that had been burned. And that's what he had. And also the origin of Godzilla was he was awakened, or he emerged because of the bombings.
Wow.
And also I think because of the radiation and the poisoning from the bombs, I think that is why he's this giant. I might have that part wrong, but that he was awoken because of the bombings, and that we just made it much more palatable, and we removed that sort of unsavory idea that our bombings and the killing of so many people, innocent people, created Godzilla, or at least created his awakening.
It is kind of mind-boggling that, we think about the Holocaust, the nuclear Holocaust, the fears of it, which were so intense when we were kids. I mean, we used to go into drills where you went to the coat room and you put your head between your knees because that will stop radiation in its tracks.
Yeah.
And there was all these TV movies about, when it happens. We don't think about nuclear annihilation anymore, and it is a fucking button away.
Oh, yeah. No, I think about if Putin ever became unstable, more so even, but really, you know what? I want to go down. I really want to live in history. It would be bombing the United States. That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
Right.
That's a big, Stalin-esque move. You know what I mean? But Stalin, oddly, might have been more human than that. Maybe not. If Stalin were around, maybe he would have done that. I mean, the atrocities he committed were incredible.
Well, right now, Kim Jong-un has the capability of launching strikes into South Korea and and other regions. I don't think they can reach us yet, but it's just a matter of time.
No, well, Hawaii got the shit scared out of them. Remember that 2 years ago?
What happened?
All of a sudden, everybody's Apple phones lit up with the warning that incoming bomb was happening. Families said goodbye. I'm not even joking. Huge, massive efforts to get your relatives on the phone. Like, they shit their pants. Like, anyone can Google this. And it turned out it was a false alarm, but it did trigger the early warning system.
Wow.
And they only had like 11 minutes or whatever it was.
Damn.
Yeah, because they
Damn.
can reach Hawaii.
It reminds me of that joke. A guy is sitting next to another guy at a bar, and he says, what would you do if you knew we were about to be nuclear annihilation in 10 minutes? What would you do? Second guy goes, I would fuck the first thing that moved. What would you do? First guy goes, stay very still.
Such a homophobic joke. I'd totally sleep with a guy if there was 10 minutes left.
Maybe it was just that particular guy. It wasn't homophobic in general, but...
Greg, your jokes are just, they're putting more pain in the world.
I don't know how I'm going to go back to stand-up comedy after this. I don't know what the fucking temperature is going to be in comedy clubs anymore. Look at this podcast. How many letters we get every week about shit we said that was... stand-up is going to be worse. I actually have to face people.
Listen, we're a super positive podcast that happened to have covered already the Holocaust and the bombings, the atomic bombs on Japan. Let's get to the Tet Offensive. When's the next thing? And we covered the virus.
And the virus. And what we didn't mention is before the show started, we were going over which stories to cover, and we dropped the abortion bit.
That's true.
Yep.
Good Lord. Can we, we should schedule a positive podcast.
You want to do that?
Just do one, or maybe, what if we did one nothing but positive podcast a month?
Okay, 5 minutes the first Tuesday of every month. We do a 5-minute all positive podcast.
Okay. Some of these are positive.
And it ends with us spinning out. It ends with us not being able to hold it in anymore.
Yeah. Well, some of these are positive because I think we kind of take down bad guys when we can, like with our humor-ish. I don't know.
Well, here's a good one. Let's go to entertainment, where I know you have a nice story for us.
Do I? What is it?
Love on the Spectrum?
Oh, my God. Yes, that's a perfect segue. Talk about positive. So Love on the Spectrum, my daughter watched it and told me, I really have to watch. She told me I would love it. I'm like, what is it? She's like, a dating show. I'm like, I'm out. I'm automatically out. She had me try to watch Love Island once. Forget it. So Love on the Spectrum, I'm like, sounds exploitive. I don't think I want any part of it. It's my favorite show on TV. I wish there were more. If I knew there were more, I would have paced myself, because I think there's only 6 of them or something like that. So
and what's the show?
It is people on the spectrum, autism, most Asperger's, which they all pronounce Asperger's, I think. It's in Australia, I believe, this show, and they are trying to find love. And they are very highly functioning in terms of where they are on the spectrum. Most of them are. It's varying. And as you'll learn, and you learn a lot about it, which is great, that no 2 cases are the same. And they have some people who are just awesome characters who are trying. They work like in a matchmaking service, and they are trying to match them up. In fact, there's one speed dating round for these people on the spectrum. But it is so great that now I want a Spectrum Island. I want a Spectrum is Blind. I want people, because they're so pure. Oh my God, wait, hold on. I took notes because I'm like, I'm going to be talking to Greg, and I'm not going to remember how much I freaking love this guy. So his name is Michael, but he'll be on a date, and it'll be, let's see, where is it? Oh, fucking, where is it? I forgot it even when I wrote it down. I don't know where I wrote it down, but it would be like, oh, when were you born? And the person's like, oh, 1995 or something. It's like, oh, the same year Men in Black came out. But first of all, I love that. And they're like, yeah. And they just, everything. But the best is, so I'll just go from memory. They'll be on a date and they'll be just like, oh, well, how are you feeling? Well, kind of nervous because I'm wondering if you like me. And it's like, you're not supposed to say that part.
Yeah.
And then what I realize, it's almost like, you remember in Annie Hall, he subtitled what they were really thinking while they were saying, where are you from? Oh, you're from Minnesota. And he subtitled what they were really thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these people don't have that pretense. They're so pure. And it's like, what it makes me realize is how many layers of bullshit I exist under.
Yeah.
And how many I so want to be liked if I meet, and it's meeting anyone in life. It's meeting you when I met you for the first time and why I didn't like you. It's like I have all these layers and no one is just being, everything's on the sleeve, 100% honest.
Right.
And that's what these people are.
Wow. That sounds amazing. Yeah. It's, it reminds me of that movie that came out last year. It was amazing. It was called Peanut Butter Falcon, the Peanut Butter Falcon. It had Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf or Shia LaBeouf?
I'm going to go Shia.
Shia LaBeouf and this guy, Zach Gottsagan, who is has Down syndrome. I mean, he's not on the spectrum. He's got real intellectual disability. And so the movie was so beautiful.
I saw it in the theater.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Because Shia is such a fucking ornery character, and yet there's something about this person, and like you said, you described this honesty and this pureness that this guy, it just touches him, and then it's Huckleberry Finn starring a guy with intellectual disabilities. And what happened is during the filming of it,
and no N-word, so it's another bonus.
Well, no R word. They don't use the R word.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, actually, they do. Somebody does in the movie. So it is actually very similar. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
So Shia has a breakdown during the filming of the movie. I think I can't remember if it was alcohol or drugs or just a complete mental breakdown. But he was in rehab, and as he was healing, he started writing his life story, which turned into a movie called Honey Boy. Did you see Honey Boy?
I've heard good things about it.
It's amazing. And it's a movie that ended up getting made a year after this one was made. And so he was halfway through making Peanut Butter Falcon, and the guy, Zach, came to him and he said, you have to finish this movie. This is my only chance I'm ever going to get. Oh. And so Shia was like, I'm in love with this guy. He comes back. They fucking kill it. They kill it. You saw the guy. He was at the Academy Awards. He got up and he presented the award for Best Short Film. And he went up there on stage with them. It was beautiful. And the poor guy got kind of stuck. It took a while, but he presented the award.
I don't know. I fast forwarded through that part. I'm kidding. But I do like, and then Shia championed the hell. That movie would have been so under the radar. Yeah. But I think he really put a push in for everyone to see the movie. Yeah. I saw it with my daughters. We really liked it.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But
it's so funny in a weird, quite honestly, any new actor can say, this is my only shot, they'd be right. Yeah. But he especially, of course.
Right.
I found one of the quotes I wrote down. The one was, oh, you're 22. You were born in 1997, same year as Men in Black. That really cracked me up. But the guy, one of the things was, they're getting to know each other. I mean, the top of the date. And one of them goes, well, I couldn't speak until I was 7, so I guess you could say I'm the whole package. It killed me. Oh my God, leading it off. They're just, and by the way, it's that's what all dating or all relationships, even if it's friends or business associates, should be. It's you might as well show everything, because isn't the goal of what you're doing to see if they'll accept you warts and all, and you to see the same?
Right.
But it's also really funny in a way that you're laughing. And that's the most important thing. You're laughing with them, like that line. Like, that's genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them have very, very good senses of humor and self-deprecating. Just lovable, man. The show's great.
Wow. All right. We'll check it out. Also
Yes.
in entertainment, 2 more comedians have been accused of sexual harassment and rape. Let's go to sports.
There we go.
What's going on in sports, Mike?
I got sports, man. Let's see. We got so the St. Louis Cardinals have been plagued. Our producer just told us right before this that 8 of them have tested positive, and it's almost like 8 men out, 9 men out, whatever the fucking thing. 8 men out, oh, maybe 9 tested positive. But I like to think that 1 is still playing with his all, kind of like whatever. Bad analogy.
It's the most positive thing that's happened to the Cardinals in a long time.
God, oh, I know, right? The Gas House Gang. So anyway, what this leads to, though, is this going to work? Because last week we were talking about the Marlins, who have 21 tested positive, which means more than that now. And now the Cardinals, and it's like the NBA's doing it. And so far it's working for the NBA because they have their bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're all just in that bubble. I was also wondering, are all their side pieces in a bubble near Orlando, like in Okeechobee? Like, are they all the mistresses in their own bubble?
Yeah.
So the guys don't get caught with their side pieces? Because that's how they're all going to get caught. All of a sudden, the family has it.
If Kobe was still alive, they'd call it Kobe Chokey. They really, I think we're in trouble, Mike, because as you know, Mike and I have spent thousands of dollars so far on a podcast with no revenue. And our first ads were supposed to be a betting site for the NFL. And every day that goes by, I go, oh no, we're going further in the hole with this one.
Hey, if you happen to be a listener who's sitting on unwanted cash and you have something we want to promote, hit us up. I can tell you now, we'll do it for a pretty low number, I think.
We got a fire sale in our ads this month.
Yeah.
Pay our producer this week and we'll fucking plug your tie business.
Or do you want to tell your spouse, like, hey, pick up a fucking, clean a fork or a plate once in a while? We'll do an ad. We'll do an ad for your household saying, hey, come on, meet me halfway.
Yeah, send us an offer.
Yeah. Is your husband emotionally distant? We can relate to that. We'll have a talk. We'll have a talk with them.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be on the air. We'll call people.
There's also that. Whatever will defray the cost.
Yeah.
I like that.
Also in sports, we had a letter from somebody about Formula One racing.
I thought we were going to do that Thursday.
Should we do that Thursday? Okay.
Let's do that Thursday because that was a nice letter, and I'll follow Formula One. I have another sports story. It's the SEC, Southeastern whatever, the football.
Yeah.
I do not follow college football. But anyway, they announced last week that it's going to play a 10-game conference-only schedule. And I guess this is big news for all the cretins who follow college football. And the focus immediately turned to the biggest question, which 2 opponents, I guess, because the math will get added to each team's schedule. And that question was answered Friday when the conference announced those new opponents for all 14 of its teams. So Arkansas got scheduled Georgia and Florida. Like, talk about 2 teams that you don't want added to your schedule.
Yeah.
Like, what disasters. You're trying to play it safe during this coronavirus.
Yeah.
But it led to me with the SEC, and it's kind of like, you know what? Fuck the SEC. And I just always hear about them. Like, the SEC is like Alabama. It's all those states. And I don't know. It's Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Auburn, Mississippi. They got 3 teams named the Tigers because they're so stupid. 3 teams named the Tigers in the same conference. 2 of them are named the Bulldogs, you fucking morons. But the real reason I hate them is because they were segregating players. They were the last like integrated conference. Of course, you just heard the teams I listed. So anyway, it was 1950s. Prior to the 50s, college football was ruled, listen to this, I just did a little scratching, was ruled by what is known as the gentleman's agreement. By the way, whenever there's a gentleman's agreement, run, don't walk, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Greg, with our sort of white privilege, we've been a beneficiary of tons of gentleman agreements.
Oh, it's been great.
There was an understanding, and I'm wondering how much you know about this. There was an understanding that Northern teams would not use black players in games with Southern schools. Did you know this?
No shit.
With limited exceptions, it was honored. And when the North started to abandon the gentleman agreement, the Southern teams they found they no longer could dictate the racial makeup of the opposing team. And as a result, intersectional contests were phased out. Then, on November 17th, an influential Alabama booster, Alabama, for whom Alabama's athletic hall was named at the time, he wrote the Alabama president, John Galilee, and cautioned the administrator about accepting a bowl bid that involved playing an integrated team. So what went on was, okay, they're gonna stop honoring the gentleman's agreement. They're gonna field black players. Keep in mind, like Brown was tearing it up at Syracuse, I believe he was, right? Jim Brown. And O.J. Simpson was in the fucking, early on in that time, also, in the 60s. But Jim Brown was in the 50s, man. So anyway, so when it came to bowl games, so I read this little piece of history that, sorry, I'm all over the place. So he wrote also, this guy wrote, I noticed they named Pittsburgh as a prospective team to meet us in the 53 Orange Bowl. And he goes, Pittsburgh has 4 fine Negro players. Other Eastern teams have Negro players. So if anything did come in the way of an invitation, we want to make sure to insist that no Negroes will be allowed in the game. This is after World War II, by the way. This is in the fucking 50s. So it came to pass that it was Alabama and Syracuse, and the guy implored the coach of Alabama to take the team off the field if Syracuse put a black player in the game.
Wow, no shit.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's like, fuck that. And fuck all this macho Southern bullshit. There's fears lately that's just going to be like maybe another civil war because of all this shit that's going on. And it's like, no civil war needed. You know what? If you're one of these Southern places that's fucking pro tributes with the Confederate, that's what you're digging in on, is Confederate names on military bases and Confederate like soldiers. And you're also digging in on fuck wearing masks. Leave. Honestly, just leave. There won't be a civil war. Just leave. Don't let the door hit your backwards ass on the way out. I looked up debtor. There's debtor states, and then there's donor states, and the donor states are like, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, and all that stuff.
Now, what's a donor state?
A donor state and debtor states, what it means is the citizens of the state, they pay every dollar they pay in federal taxes, they get back like 65 cents. That's a donor state. That
Right.
the federal government, and the reason why is they have to give them to the debtor states like fucking Kentucky. And so let them, whatever. I could go on and on. Any Southern listeners of this podcast, I imagine you're cooler than this, and maybe you're agreeing. Like, listen, I live in Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles is so stupid, but I know that. But I guess there's a lot of us here who feel that. Maybe we'll try to change it from the inside. I should do more to do that. So if you're a Southern listener, if you can tolerate this podcast even in the last 3 months, then you're cool with us. But really, there's a problem on your hands down there. So anyway,
yeah, there's problems in LA for sure. It's gotten pretty out of hand. We should come up with examples of what's wrong with LA. I have a couple good ones, and
there's so much wrong with
yeah,
LA.
We'll start bringing them up.
We have most of the headlines. After the terrorists, after 9/11, everyone was like, hey, why they hate us. Los Angeles is responsible for other than Washington, D.C., so many of the reasons why the rest of the world hates us. Like putting out the movie, the entertainment that is just has so many blind spots in it. But regarding this Civil War shit, leave. Like, don't let the door hit you on the ass. Like, why would we fight the states leaving? I just jotted down a couple of notes. Literally, think how great the northern United States would be. Think about how much money we'd be when we're not supporting these southern states. And by the way, it'll be free health care, free education, because we'll have surpluses, which we have already. And then we'll have the best schools. We'll keep all the Ivy League schools that you hate. We'll keep the Ivy League schools. We'll keep Michigan, Stanford, and Northwestern as well. You keep Ole Miss. You keep Clemson. You can have them. Go Gators. No hard feelings. And you guys can get work visas to come work in the North as well. Anyway.
Hey, you want to chase off any more of our listeners, or should we move on to Ask Amy?
We'll keep the museums. You keep Opryland. Opryland, whatever the fuck it's called. How about that? You hate museums. You don't go to museums anyway, you douchebags.
And it's time for Dear Amy.
Are we already at Dear Amy?
Yeah, it's that time.
Hey, by the way, on a positive note, I do just want to read about Jim Brown for 4 sentences. That motherfucker, man, as a sophomore at Syracuse, in the regular season game, he rushed for 197 yards, scored 6 touchdowns, and kicked 7 extra points.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, no. It keeps going for a school record of 43 points. Then in the Cotton Bowl, also, that you guys call it the fucking Cotton Bowl is crazy, SEC. So or then maybe that's the Western Conference in Texas. I don't give a shit. Just rename it. Don't fucking rub it in their faces. You're not allowing blacks in the Cotton Bowl. There's so much wrong with that sentence. I'm back on my rant. Anyway, back to Jim Brown. Then in the Cotton Bowl, he rushed for 132 yards, scored 3 touchdowns, and kicked 3 extra points. I'm not done. As a sophomore, he was the second leading scorer on Syracuse's basketball team, and he earned a letter on the track team, and his senior year he was named first team All-American in lacrosse, and by many, he's in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. He's considered one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time.
Damn, that's amazing.
There's some positive Jim Brown shit right there. All right, where are we?
It's great that you're here, Mike, because a lot of people don't have Wikipedia, and so it's great that you get an opportunity to read entire entries of Wikipedia.
Get your news here first, last, second, third, maybe? I don't know.
Let's go to Ask Amy.
All right. You have not heard this Ask Amy, Gregory.
No, I have not.
And I can't find it. Here it is. Dear Amy, this issue has been eating at me for years. Eating is a quote because they're a punny, funny writer. When my brother and his wife invite us over to dinner, they ask us to pitch in money to defray the cost of the food.
Oh.
My brother is well off and has a vacation home. When we visit his vacation home, we are basically asked to cater a dinner for him and his wife, friends, in-laws, and anyone else who happens to be there. This can be costly. I have never asked anyone to pay for food when we invite them to my house for dinner. I might ask someone to bring dessert or wine, but never a check or cash for the meal. Should I start charging them for dinners at my house? Signed, Fed Up. Okay, Greg, I have Amy's answer here. What is your answer?
I think the answer is that you start charging them for things that they come to your house for. Say you got a pool and they're going to come over for a little swim day. Well, guess who's paying the pool boy that month? Guess who's paying for the chlorine that month? Guess who's paying for the propane and the fucking barbecue? You are, asshole.
Okay, she kind of agrees with you. She goes, you could definitely retaliate for his inhospitable treatment by doing to your brother what he is doing to you, but that would only prove that you are capable of being as rude as he is.
I am. Yes, of course I am.
And wouldn't it be so much easier to talk to him? I think our answer is an honest no.
I think the nature of any advice column is, dear so-and-so, in parentheses, I'm afraid of conversations and straightforward interactions. So I'm writing you a letter. You, a third person that's going to advise somebody you don't know about a situation because I'm afraid of confrontation.
Amy should charge him for this answer. Like, by the way, here's your advice. And if you could put $10 in the mail, because I spent 20 minutes on this. She also goes on, he's your brother. His behavior is confusing to you. So how patronizing. She goes, so use your words. Say to him, you're the only person I've ever met who invites us over and then asks us to pay for our meal. This is a good line. You ready for this line? Mom didn't raise us this way. So what gives?
Oh, right. I think that's the beauty of being Irish, is that if you pulled that shit with an Irish family, they would fucking roast you and ridicule you and shame you during the meal, and you would stop doing it. And I think it's wasps. Does a woman list her last name, or is it like anonymous? Oh yeah, she said fed up.
It's fed up. That's interesting. You thought woman.
It's
I
wasps.
thought it was okay.
It's all wasps. They can't have direct conversations with people. And the Irish take it to another level where it's not just direct conversation. It's fucking attacking you. It's the same way I believe that people should get punched in the face.
Aren't you? Maybe because in the funny world we've wound up here because we are non-confrontational very often. But aren't you generally don't you try to avoid that conversation if you can?
No.
Well, by the way, I wonder if that changed more when you stopped drinking, because drinking you were avoiding things.
Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty straightforward with people. If it's people that I know well, this is her fucking brother. If it was one of my siblings or my mother, of course we would have it out. We would say something.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, like my sister is a neat freak. And so when we stay at her house, which we do when we go to New York, I make fun of her the entire time because I know it's torturing her that some of the surfaces aren't squeaky clean and that she wants to vacuum, but we're still sleeping because we're on LA time or whatever. But I tease her about it and she laughs and it makes everything okay.
But Gregory, sometimes humor is an indirect way to tell the truth.
That's right.
You know what I mean? You can't just say, honestly, calm down. You're driving me and my family crazy and there's nothing wrong with the counter. Yeah, yes, there's a diaper on it. I'll get to it.
But yes, there's a little cocaine residue, but we had fun last night, didn't we? But don't you think that humor can be, why does it have to be seen as an unhealthy way of communicating?
No, you're right. No, you're right. But yeah, if you don't hide behind it, I guess you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, I just made fun of you because I felt like you were going on too long about Jim Brown. So I made a joke about it, and I think you heard it, and I think it'll probably affect how long you read from a fucking Wikipedia page next time.
Greg, Alabama didn't integrate till fucking 68. The SEC didn't integrate. Oh, Jesus.
Let's go to listener mails, Mike.
All right.
First of all, a woman named Joanne writes in, seem to have a crush on you two.
Wait a minute. I knew there was going to be another one every week.
Yeah. I think
there's something about our chemistry or something.
What race is Joanne? Must be Irish because there are a lot of Joannes that dig us.
I'm talking about a mystery bump on my leg, and she's still in love with us.
That's right.
Or crush. Maybe I went too far. Crush.
We have a letter from, let's see. This is from Paul Zucchini, who says, they didn't charge the Jews individually. We did a story about how the Nazis were charging the Jews that were sent to concentration camps.
Yes.
And Paul says they didn't charge the Jews individually. The Nazis extorted the money from the leaders of the Jewish communities that were already ghettoized. This has been known for decades. It was one of the cruelest psychological tortures visited upon an already tortured community. Love you guys, but couldn't laugh at this one.
I 100% respect that.
Yeah.
That is.
What, did they charge them to send them to concentration camps?
Greg, when you take my words out of context, it ruins it.
Do you know that the
ruins-
Chinese, if you get executed by the government, the Chinese, they mail you a bill for the bullet that they put into your relative's head?
Are you making that up now?
I swear to Christ, that is the standing law in China. And by the way, China executes like 2,000 people a year. They execute more people than any other country, and they charge you for it.
I've heard of something else like that too. You're charged. Is it something with the death penalty here? I don't know. You know,
Really?
my mom and stepfather used to go to this restaurant in Westchester that I forget the name of, but it was old school pub. And it was near Sing Sing. Was Sing Sing in Ossining?
Yeah.
And the legend of this place, which is apparently very, very true, is the journalist, you were not allowed to witness the electric chair. And the journalist would go to this bar and they would be drinking. And of course, there would maybe be this, Hail Mary that the governor would pardon them or not. And at the bar, the lights then would dim.
Oh, yeah.
And the journalists would take out their pens and note the time of the execution.
No, that
Because they were there covering it.
My mother's old apartment, literally, you could stand on her balcony on the 7th floor and look into the Sing Sing workout yard, and you could watch them play basketball. That's how close she was to it.
And your mom would just rub one out just from her balcony? Is this...
See, that's where I find humor is... It's one thing if you want to make jokes about Jews being sent to concentration camps.
Wait.
Or if you want to make jokes about millions of people being killed at Hiroshima or Hiroshima.
How could you possibly take that joke the wrong way?
But my mom masturbating
To a prison yard?
to a
The
prison
fucking
yard?
guy's throwing up hundreds of pounds in the yard every day? She's attracted to animals. We know.
So, but it is famous in that town that when they did executions that the lights would dim. Yeah.
Yeah.
All around the town, the lights would dim. And by the way, Sing Sing Prison, famous for a lot of phrases like getting sent up the river because it's up the river from New York City. You'd go up the Hudson and they'd send you to the prison. It's known as the Big House. It was the largest prison on the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
On the eastern half of the United States.
Yeah.
And there's another one. I can't think of the other one, but there's like a few famous phrases about Sing Sing.
What's
All
that
right, listen,
name?
we're running
What's
late.
that name? Sing Sing. Is it Native American?
I think it's that if you would turn somebody in, you could get out, but you have to turn two people in.
You had a Sing Sing on them?
Yeah.
Got it. Sing a song.
Here we go with very sad obituary this week.
And that's all, folks.
Oh, you want me to do this?
Yeah, why don't you do it?
All right, listen. Maybe we'll talk about it on Thursday a little bit. Anyway, probably not. Pete Hamill, extraordinary journalist, newspaper man, author, writer, and such a quintessential New Yorker. I have not seen that documentary on him yet. Have you seen the one on Pete Hamill?
And Jimmy Breslin?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I have to see it. But this guy was just such a straight shooter, and he was like a poor kid raised in New York, born in Brooklyn, and just like Breslin, these two poor kids grew up. Like, I think Hamill left high school when he was 15, and they just became these incredible men of letters. And they changed journalism, and they changed especially the voice of New York journalism. And it came down from Damon Runyon and all that. So anyway, Pete Hamill passed away this week, and anyway, I have a thing I was going to read because his writing is so beautiful, but I've already read too much today, so I won't read it. But just, if you can, do yourself a favor, go read these obituaries because they are written by fellow journalists, many of whom got into journalism because of this guy, and they worship him, rightly so. And it was just very, very sad. And he sometimes could become part of the story. Like when the Rolling Stones came to town, he partied with them every day. He befriended, and he said it was perhaps a mistake. He became very, very close with Bobby Kennedy. Do you know that he was by Bobby Kennedy's side when he was shot at the Ambassador Hotel?
Yeah.
and was one of the people who ran and apprehended, his assassin.
Sirhan.
Yeah. And he also got close. So Bob Dylan.
Well, he's the one who's responsible for Kennedy running. He was such good friends with him. He convinced him to run for president.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But Bob, the Rolling Stones had that famous week on Saturday Night Live when they were the musical guests, and they would party all night, and it would be at these legendary bars downtown, and the Stones would then play at night. And if you go back and find those videos, it was around the time of Some Girls, because I think it was Respectable, maybe?
Yeah.
Mick Jagger completely has a hoarse, raspy voice because they would be up all night doing cocaine and drinking every single night that week.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was asked by Bob Dylan to write his liner notes, and Pete Hamill actually won a Grammy Award for the liner notes on Blood on the Tracks, arguably one of Bob Dylan's best albums.
It is his best album. Also, he wrote a memoir called A Drinking Life that I read that I would say had more influence on me writing a memoir than anything else. It was so honest. It was so charming. It was what I came so obviously worlds short of his, but I aspired in being honest and trying to combine the truth about growing up in an alcoholic home, which he also did, and the humor of being a New Yorker and being Irish. And he was a great man, and he was the editor of the Daily News for a lot of years. And he was just a guy who got his stories by sitting in bars next to real New Yorkers, next to cops and firemen and politicians and other writers, night after night. He would be at places like, what was the famous bar they all hung out at?
The Lion's Head.
The Lion's Head, yeah. The Lion's Head, where it would just be these Norman Mailer and Frank McCourt, all these guys. We had the Clancy brothers. And, and they're just... Anyway, it's a time gone by.
They'd then go over to the White Horse Tavern. They were in all those areas. And Frank McCourt was a dirt poor school teacher before he wrote Angela's Ashes. He taught at Stuyvesant High School there.
And he also says Angela's Ashes he wrote because of A Drinking Life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? We've covered the Holocaust, the bombings. I've covered racism. And say, you know what? How about a little beauty? Let me just read a little bit of Pete Hamill here. I'll try to do it quickly. So he goes, long ago, as an 8-year-old boy standing on the roof of a 3-story tenement in Brooklyn, I first experienced a sense of wonder. We had moved to our unheated top-floor flat a few weeks earlier in 1943, leaving a damp ground-floor apartment beside a clamorous factory. I had never climbed to the new roof alone. It was too dangerous, my mother said. A man-made cliff. At dusk, my friends gone, home to eat, my mother out shopping, I ventured up the last flight of stairs in a tentative now or never way. I opened the hook on the tar paper door and stepped into a world of planks, pebbles, chimneys, pigeons gurgling in a coop, and clotheslines. In that instant, I felt my life change. To the west, far off across the harbor, the sun was descending into a landscape I knew only as Jersey. Clouds were slowly tumbling, dark in the foreground, edged in orange in the distance. Firefighters moved slowly, like toy boats, cutting fragile white lines in the black water. In Manhattan, the tall buildings were merging with the gathering darkness, no lights burning in that time of war. Above the distant jagged mass, a few stars glimmered. Tiny holes punched through the curtain of streaked dark blue sky. Below me were the rooftops of 100 houses. All of it was a dazzling display of form, color, and mysterious shadow, rising past the limits of what we called the neighborhood. Last line, I tried to say something, but no words came. I didn't yet know how to describe what I felt. Surely the word was wonder.
Wow.
Anyway.
That was nice.
He's a gorgeous writer, but read... And he lived a life, as a lot of the obituaries said, becoming, they say his greatest story was his own.
Well, let's go out on that. I think we should cut out the Sunday funnies this week and end on a beautiful reading from Jimmy Breslin. From Jimmy Breslin, from Pete Hamill.
Now you fucking ruined it. Let me read it again.
It was a nice moment.
Long ago, as an 8-year-old boy.
Wait, is Jim Brown in this one?
fuck Alabama. I'm telling you that right now.
Does he
God
show up
damn
on the
them.
roof? Does Jim Brown show up on the roof?
The 50s, not fielding black players. How dare you?
All right, listen, we want to thank all our friends at Midcoast Media who do a fantastic job every week helping us out.
They should work on their name. Go ahead. Keep going.
And we'll catch you guys next week.
Missouri, one of the debtor states, you bastards.
All right. Chris and Nathan, take it, wrap it up. Put it under a leaky. Put it under a leaky part of the ceiling.
Send your notes to me. I drag this podcast down. I apologize.
Insulate the walls with it and throw it out. It's the Sunday papers.
Stuff a doll with it.
Make a paper hat.
Oh, we're still on?
Oh,
okay.
we're still on. All right.
Yeah.
We'll catch you guys next week. Don't forget the Thursday papers every Thursday, and we'll see you here next week. God bless.
Take it easy.
Sunday papers, Sunday papers, Sunday papers, Sunday papers, Sunday papers. Check the ruffle, y'all, it's the Sunday papers. Straight from the west side, land of waking bakers. Thong watching Knicks paddle out through the breakers. Wife's busy rubbing one out to Don Draper. Shakedown Street, party album none greater. Family Circus, world's laziest creator. Dagwood turning Greg's stomach like Jaeger. Hagar motherfuckers, who the fuck says Hagen? Fitzgibbons, the combo, master debater. Short and Wall Street, high risk day traders. Microdose of mushrooms, comedy crusaders. Wrap a fish in it, peace out, check you later.